Okay, we're going to take off all the things we need to take off to get to the oil separators, which are back under here, and cam position sensors and cam solenoids. To do that, we have to take off the bumper, this thing, the radiators, the wiring harness, the two intercoolers, and then we can get to the oil separators. So first, we're going to disconnect the negative battery and the battery terminal in the trunk and jack it up and put it on some ramps. Okay, car's up on ramps. Now we're going to take off the air filters and this thing. Just unsnap this cover from the back, disconnect this connector, take out these, or unscrew these 4 bolts, screws, undo this hose clamp, undo this hose clamp, and this whole thing comes right out. With all of the clamps of this style, you need to pop this plastic white thing up a little bit, and then you can squeeze it and pull it off. After you get the cover off, this just pulls up and then unclips from the front. Okay, we're going to pry up the center of these things and then pull this out, and then we can take out this entire piece, unclipping the hood release cable from the back of it along here and here. Okay, there's one more fastener under the middle of this thing, and I don't remember how it comes out. So we're going to take off the bumper, which means this screw and the one on the other side, and then there are 3 fasteners in here in the wheel well, and then we'll take out this plastic insert, and then we can get to, can't really see them, but there are 2 screws here and here that you can reach from inside the wheel well if you pull the liner back. First, we'll put some masking tape on the fender and on the headlight to protect it. We'll also take off this plastic undercover and this metal undercover, and this little plastic rivet at the corner on each side so that we can get that wheel well loose. Wheel well liner. Okay, the bumper is held on the bottom with a little bolt on each side, so we'll take those off. The outside temp sensor is just shoved into the bumper here, so we'll just pull that out. Okay, disconnected the wire for the front-facing camera, and we'll do the radar thing behind the emblem after we get the bumper off. Next, we'll disconnect this connector that's on the right side of the bumper. Now we'll take off these 3 screws. Okay, this rotated out of the back of the bumper. Next, we're going to take this connector off of it. Okay, this thing is connected on the underside here. So if you squeeze these 2 tabs, it'll come out. Next, we'll take off this thing and this thing, which means this screw and the headlight screw right in there on each side. Gotta unclip this wire from this bracket too. Taking off the horn too, just this and the electrical connectors. Okay, now we're taking off the headlights. There's one bolt here at the top, and there's one bolt on the bottom of it. Yeah, you'll find it. And then there's an electrical connector, and then it comes right out. Okay, next we're taking this thing off, which means these 2 bolts on each side in every single one of these little black screws. Next, we'll pry out this round thing and take out this plastic clip that's holding the radiator. Next, we'll take off this bolt for the brace on each side so we can get this thing off. Next, we'll take off these two hoses, get them out of the way, label them so we put them back on correctly. Okay, this is where it gets super messy. We're going to take off this connector here, which is going to let a lot of coolant out, and we're going to take off this connector behind it, which is from the hose that wraps up behind the fan, goes to the intercoolers. Another big mess. And then we're going to take off the big lower full flow radiator hose. Also a big mess, and that might drain most of the coolant from both cooling systems. Okay, we took off those two hoses plus the bottom hose on the full flow radiator right here, and quite a bit of coolant came out. Next, we'll take off this bleed line at the top. We'll take off the low temp hose from the front of each intercooler, these two clamps, and hold it up and try to drain whatever might be in there out the bottom, since we disconnected the bottom of this hose. Next, we'll take off the electrical connector for the fan, and we'll take off the AC line here, and then we'll take off the top hose for the full flow radiator. It's a good idea to plug up the AC lines, both sides, to minimize the amount of moisture that gets in. Obviously, you should have drained the AC beforehand. I had somebody at a local garage do it. Okay, we're gonna pry up this little plastic clip, and this whole heat exchanger thing will pivot backwards and fall off. And we have to get that hose down there off. That's for the low temp radiator. Next, we're going to take off the two screws that are holding this pipe to the back of the fan, so we can take the fan out. Next, we'll take off the bottom AC connection, first unplugging the pressure sensor electrical connection and plugging up the holes so that moisture doesn't get in. Next, we'll take off the bottom hose for the low temp circuit. A bunch more coolant will come out. Next, we pull this whole thing straight up and out. Ended up removing this hose that was connected to the fan just to make it easier. Also took off this vent line that went from here to here, and also to this hose that was clipped in here. Next, we're going to take off the top part of the wiring harness. So that means all the bolts, like that one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and any other bolts that you find, like this one, and then take off all this insulation, take off this insulation, and just unplug everything, the coils, all the fuel injectors, this thing, there's a plug on the intake manifold down there, there's another plug that's hanging off the cylinder head or clipped to the cylinder head, all these connectors, the cam position sensors, the cam solenoids, all this evap stuff. Eventually underneath there's a boost pressure sensor connector. Disconnect everything on that side, same deal on this side, and then we can move this wiring harness back out of the way and work on getting the intercoolers out. Okay, the wiring harness is disconnected from the top and pulled forward up here. So now we can slide these clamps to the middle. We're going to leave this pipe connected to the intercooler, and this pipe connected to the intercooler. And because trying to put those clamps back on is a nightmare, taking them off is a nightmare. So we're going to loosen the big hose clamp at the intake manifold. We're going to get this out of the way and loosen the clamp at this big hose, and loosen these clamps and move this clamp over, and then we will pry this thing out of here. Okay, we're also going to pull this line that goes to the wastegate actuators. Just move that off of here and just pull it out of the way. It's also clipped into the overflow tank here. Just trying to get that out of the way a bit. And then loosened the bolts, the bolt for this one, or removed it. So that's loose. And now we can pull it off of this pipe. And then I believe we can take this left intercooler out. Got the left intercooler out. Put this screw back on because it holds this pipe on here, so the strain isn't all on this clamp. You want this pipe to be bolted to the intercooler. Next, we're going to take off this bracket that goes from here over to here, so we can get this intercooler out. And we're going to disconnect its electrical connector after we get it out, because I can't reach the connector. Already loosened the big hose clamp here and the one at the intake manifold down here. So we'll take out this bracket and we'll pull this thing out. Got the right intercooler off. Now we're going to take off the oil separators. Three bolts. There's the third one in here, and then loosen this clamp because this is connected to the oil separator. It's all one piece. Same thing on the other side, except there's also a piece, some hoses that are bolted on here, so you need to remove this screw that's under here.